welcome back to the e-learning platform of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders. We're still on session 2 of module 1. The topic is still the contractual law for freight forwarders. This session is about the continuation of S2ss from the summary of clauses in the standard trading conditions. Generally, clauses 4 to 23 is about the rights and duties of the forwarder. And I'll encourage you to take the trouble to read through very carefully and make yourself familiar with the rights and duties of a freight forwarder under these standard trading conditions. They will be of much help in your practice. If you should come across anything that is difficult for you to understand, you may come back to me and I'll explain to you. Otherwise, the clauses are mostly quite self-explanatory and it's very simple to understand. Clauses 24 is about the rights and duties of a customer. There are a few things that I would want to emphasize here about what are the duties of the customer to what forwarders do and can do. In fact, it is set in the STC that the description, quantity, value, and other particulars of any goods furnished by the customer or on behalf of the customer are correct and accurate. The Customs Division of Ghana Revenue Authority expects that, but quite often and in the past, the freight forwarder is the party that had been held responsible when there's an issue on description, quantity, and value, because the misconception was that the forwarder is the party that manufactures or design invoices and documents, which is not the case. Documents are provided by customers, international traders, consignees, owners of cargo. And these documents are supposed to have been given by the sellers of the cargo or goods to the consignee or the owner of the cargo. So how would a forwarder have to design or manufacture a document for them? In fact, it's incumbent on the international trader to ensure that accurate and valid documents are provided or given to the forwarder for the services they provide for them. They are to ensure that the documents covering the goods are genuine, correct, and proper. How would the forwarder know? The values, the description, and quantity. It is the international trader who should know. So it is set in the SCC as a responsibility for the customer, the importer himself or herself, to ensure that the description, quantity, value, and other particulars of any goods furnished by them and on their behalf are correct and accurate. Certainly, if they consult forwarders for advice before they negotiate and transact their businesses, it is most helpful, because at that stage they would have a sound idea about the correct description of goods. And then as for the quantity, how will the forwarder know what sort of quantity they buy until they tell them? The values of goods are established by the sellers themselves, and they are all established in the invoices and the documents they bring. So it is the responsibility and it is the duty of the customer, please, it is the duty of customers to ensure that the description, quantity, value, and all other particulars on the documents that are handed over to the freight forwarder are correct and accurate. If they are found to be inaccurate thereafter, it will not be the responsibility of the freight forwarder, because the forwarder, especially when it comes to custom brokerage, will only be acting as an agent on behalf of the customer. But as a caution, forwarders need to ensure that at least the documents that they receive from their clients are accurate and they are correct. If there should be any breach of the customer's obligation, if the customer does not give accurate or correct information in the documents they hand over to freight forwarders to work with, and anything is found untoward, the remedy can be found in clause 27. And it states that customer to indemnify forwarders for any breach by the customer of any law, regulation, etc., especially when a forwarder acts on their behalf as an agent. They will not be liable. And in fact, if any cost that comes to or accrue to the forwarder would have to be borne by the customer. This is what is set in clauses 27. This slide is about the liability and limitation of the freight forwarder should they be found culpable for breach of any of the clauses. If the breach is caused by an act of God, anything beyond their control, God is supreme, God is in charge of everything, nobody can control what God does. So if a forwarder is in breach of any the customers, any clause, and it arose or it comes out of what we consider in law as act of God, then they probably have the relief in that. Now, if there are strikes at the port, terminals, or this restricted area where service is carried out, if the laborers at the terminal decide not to work, if there's any restraint by the staff of the terminal, and for that reason forwarder is not able to carry out their duty, then whatever damages or loss in terms of revenue, can never be the fault of a freight forwarder, because forwarders do not have control on the labor at the port or terminals. But note that if, as a result of the fault of a staff of a freight forwarding company, or the forwarder themselves refuses to work and causes delay, and by their act, any damage is caused or any loss results, if they are not careful, they do not take due care, and do take their job seriously, then they will be. But anything beyond their control, like strikes, stoppages, and inaction by the laborers at the port or terminals, then they have a relief. Generally, matters beyond the control of forwarders, gives them a chance for relief. Where forwarders may be found culpable for loss or damage, then the established invoice value of the goods that may be lost or damaged can be used or computed for what the forwarder would have to be liable for. In the absence of established value in form of invoices and established values that can be seen clearly as the true value of goods that are damaged or lost. The way is to use computation, which is the sum of the 2.5 special drawing rights. Special drawing rights are established figures that are revised or reviewed over years. So it is not forwarders who establish them. They are in the international trade industry. If the invoice value or the true value of the cargo damage or loss cannot be found, then the value that forwarder becomes liable to is computed by considering the sum at the rate of 2.5 SDR per each kilo. So there will be a multiplication of the number of kilos of the cargo multiplied by the value which he calls the SDR, and that is multiplied by 2.5 to obtain the value that the freight forwarder is liable to fulfill to the customer, or whichever is the least. Clause 36 is about notice of claim, and it says if the customer has a claim against the forwarder, this should be done in writing within 14 days of the damaged goods, which will be the date of delivery of the goods, the promise date that the forwarder promised to deliver the goods from the custody of customs, if that is the case. Or if there is non-delivery, the date that the freight forwarder promised to have delivered the goods. And this requires the customer to make claims in the form of writing. It should not be oral, verbal, or express. It should be put on paper. It should be written, and this should be delivered to the freight forwarder within 14 days of the delivery day of the cargo, or if it is non-delivery, then the date that the forwarder promised to deliver the cargo. 14 days within the date of delivery of goods, or in the case of non-delivery, 14 days of the date the goods should have been delivered. Clauses 38 to clauses 40 is about jurisdiction of law. Please, I entreat you to take the trouble to go through the STC, reading word by word, sentence by sentence, and make sure you understand. If you have any difficulty, get back to me, and we can have a thorough discussion of what your problem is.